Welcome, I'm your coach, Shaz Kraz, back again, bringing you self-development for body and mind. I'm your personal trainer and content creator, and today in my private gym and studio, I'm going to be talking about physiotherapy and how it can help people with their bodies and their mental state. But to help me do this, I'm joined by a special guest. He's an exceptional physiotherapist himself, and his credentials are here in front of me. And his outstanding examples of his work include working for Notts County Football Club and helping rehabilitate sports injuries for Team GB Taekwondo. I give you Anthony Mazzimore.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming.
No, that's quite an intro. I don't think anybody's ever made my job sound that good. So, cheers, mate. Maybe I'm not getting paid enough, but no, cheers, mate.
Get a raise.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Cheers, mate.
Well, anyway, I understand you're a very busy man and you do juggle family as well.
Yes.
With kids, it's hard, so thank you for coming.
No, my pleasure.
I've got 3 myself. It's not easy.
So,
I can relate. Absolutely. Now, I mean, how do you feel about being here today? It's a good opportunity.
Yeah, quite excited. I think it's I'm glad to be getting into the famous gym environment. I'm loving it, mate. I'm loving it.
One day.
So, yeah. No, but it's definitely it's good. It's always nice to be able to just sit down and have a chat. I know we've been sort of lining this up for quite some time. Yes, so yes, no, I'm definitely I'm glad. My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, anyway, first of all, I wanted to dive straight in because I know physically, anatomically, you serve people and help them physically get better, but mentally, have you seen your clients as they progress and get better and better physically? Does their mental state improve as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big part in terms of from a physiotherapy point of view. A lot of people will often ask me what's the difference between a physio, what you do, how does that differ with regards to massage therapists, or how does that differ to what personal trainers do? And the biggest part in terms of from the way that I see is that actually we deal with people in pain, and pain is something that has always got a negative. I mean, yes, there's certain amounts of pain that people can call a good pain, an enjoyable pain, if there's any such thing, if if you like to describe it that way. But generally, pain is a negative. We're talking about nociceptive pain. It's a negative experience, and for many people, it finds that actually it can have a very negative toll, and after what can weigh you down. And it's essentially it's people they've got pain, they'll often come to physio because they can no longer perform their sport, they can no longer do their job, they're struggling to do the things that they enjoy with their hobbies, they can't spend time with their family the way that they want, they're not sleeping well, they can't rest well, and all of these sort of influences has got such a big influence from a psychosocial point of view, that naturally once we address that, it's got a big influence in terms of how it's going to affect them from a cognitive point of view and a mental health and well-being point of view, but as well as that, as you can have the reverse in terms of actually our mental state can play a big part in terms of actually what causes our pain, in terms of what sort of state are we in with regards to what your life is like, what's the overall history, what's your understanding of your condition, what do you think is going on, how do you think it's going to impact you, and that understanding, and depending on what sort of stage you are on that journey and that course, it can definitely have an influence on things. So, yeah.
I mean, it's good that you mentioned the state, because in neurolinguistic programming, they talk about something called the Cybernetic Loop. For those who don't know, neurolinguistic programming, NLP, is talking about your thoughts affecting your feelings affecting your behaviors. It's that kind of cycle. But I read upon this cybernetic loop and how your internal state affects your external state and vice versa. So basically, when people are depressed and they have their heads down, and people use the expression, keep your chin up, they say your head up, and that actually should make you feel physically better, mentally better, physically better, because there was one study called have you heard of the Superman pose, superhero pose study? That one. Yes. I imagine you do. So basically, I think we should try for a few minutes a day. People standing akimbo, the chest out and everything. And and then they had an increase in testosterone level and a decrease in hormone like cortisol. So that was quite interesting to
and you know, and those sort of things, you know, like they play a big part in terms of, and we always talk about it in terms of like what people would describe as placebos with regards to treatments and interventions and evidence-based practice, and I'm a big believer that actually, like, you know, this pain is such a complex thing, and how we understand pain and how pain develops, and what different factors can have an influence on that actually it's super important that we're able to influence all those different things, and actually understanding that actually, you know what, how can I get people to engage and get them to feel better, but actually understanding that actually I need to get you to feel better as well. I need to get you to want to do things better, and there may be things that like I'll give you as interventions that I know actually this is going to be a short-term relief, but I know that alongside this and this is going to get you there. So it's that understanding of actually like right now the biggest thing we need to give you that Superman pause input. Let's get you feeling better. Let's get you on board. Let's get you to say actually I left and I felt better. Yes, 2-3 days time things will probably like flare up again, but we know that our goal is what we want to be at in 3-4 weeks time. That's where we need to get you back up to where we want to. But right now, let's get things feeling better right now. So that influence and that overall setting in terms of that holistic approach that we want to be engaging.
I was just going to say you're doing a holistic approach. I mean, I was training someone who was suffering from Alzheimer's, and they had a bad posture. And in personal training, we call it Cascade of Failure, where one thing goes down and it causes another thing to go down. So you feel down when you're looking down, and then it's hard to communicate because of the cognitive problems, certain exercises, So you're bang on point. It is a holistic thing in mind and body. Now, on the point of looking down, these days we all work on desktops. And we also play on the computer. We play, computer gaming of choice. And mobiles, that's been a big problem. Everyone's looking down. So how can we protect ourselves from this kyphosis? How can any simple exercises?
So it's a really interesting one, because I know there's a recent study, now off the top of my head I can't remember who it's about, but actually they were looking at sort of causes of neck pain, and there not being any particular correlation between the two, between like our resting postures and what jobs we do, but actually on a day-to-day basis we see people who come in with these issues, and actually like functionally they'll come in and say actually no, this is what's causing my pain. I know that when I'm doing this for quite some time, after a while things get irritated, and often it's just a really simple things just to get things moving a little bit more. Biggest thing I was told, people, that our bodies have evolved to move, we're designed to be running, turning, twisting, jumping, doing all these things that actually nowadays we just don't give ourselves enough of.
Like babies can squat perfectly.
Yes, and it sounds really interesting. And we look at those, but then it's all that those those functional movements that actually just keeping things a little bit more natural, a little bit more normalized, and I'm a big believer in just promoting movement, just get people moving, get people to feel better. So I say definitely the best things is just give yourself a little bit of break. I would say if it's your work tasks, if there's a certain thing that you have to do every half an hour or so, give yourself a little break to say actually what, get up, have a little walk away, go get yourself a quick glass of water, or give yourself a little treat that I walk across, I can have a cherry or a strawberry in between, and just different little things just to encourage you to get up and move around and do functional stuff, and just think actually if I'm in here for a while, try and set myself little limits in terms of how long am I on my phone for, how long am I setting my laptop for, on the tablet, and just be thinking okay, after this, I know I've been doing this for a while, so let me shift my position, let me move out this way, let me get up, have a little stretch and do something a little bit different, and just having those little breaks. And I think with the whole sort of COVID era, that's been a big thing in terms of more people working from home. And I talk to people, they're like, before, I've got a good setup at home, but actually what I find is that I've had the occupational health guys come and set things up for me, and I've bought everything that I need, and it's a brilliant setup. But actually the problem is that once I start working, I haven't got the distraction to go and have a chat with so and so. I haven't got the distraction to get up. Everything's there for me. So once I start, it's just like bang, 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 and before I know it, 3-4 hours later, yes, I've been super productive, but I haven't moved much. And so it's that encouragement, sort of trying to implement those little things to just keep things moving.
We're not designed to be that sedentary.
Yeah, absolutely.
You made that point clear. Yeah. Now, in terms of what we can buy inexpensively, what kind of equipment, like standing up desks, would you say these are good things?
Definitely, I find like several of my previous roles, there have been something that work quite well in terms of from a working role point of view, in terms of having that ability, and I think it's the key thing is that we want to have variety in terms of the positions. That so I always say to people, there's nothing wrong with sitting whilst you're working, but it's all about how long you're sat for. And it's there's no such thing as a perfect posture, there's no such thing as a perfect movement. We're all very, very different sizes, different body types, different shapes, different functional tasks, so we've got different loads and different needs, but often there's like a saying that's quite common in physiotherapy that there's no such thing as the best posture or the best position. Then the best posture is the next posture or the next position. And it's all about yes, if I've been doing this for a while, then the best thing for it is however I twist around and do a little bit from this position, then knowing that from there I need to go this way, and then just move things around. So if I've been sat on here for the next position, the next patient I see, I'll do that maybe stood up or perched on the edge, and just changing things up little and often all the way throughout the day.
Yeah, because I used to be an assessor and two personal trainers, and they used to say I'll do the static posture observation. And I'd do the perfect one. I'd say, look, right, there's your chest animals. I tried to make it perfect as possible, so no one will see an imbalance or anything. But when you put it like this, just being natural is best, so long as we're not staying still too long.
That's it.
That's good.
And that's the biggest thing is that the idea. I think that perfect posture and posture control and movement, I think definitely within the right context, it is important. But it's certainly not everything, and I think often is that I'll get people who come in and they are in so much pain and things are irritable, but I'm actually I look at them and I'm like, gosh, I couldn't be sat the way that you are all day, because actually that would give me pain, because essentially you're just working everything non-stop, and that's not normal. We need to give things time to just switch off and feel comfortable. And it's I always say to people you look at physios and postures and things, and it's always quite funny if I go to any conference and things like that, and they'll sit there and everybody's sort of watching the minute the slide brings on posture, everybody goes, oh, okay, and it's well, we're all okay, but why do we feel the need to automatically be
competitive?
So it's kind of no, actually, it's natural to slump, it's natural to slouch, but it's all about actually how often are we doing it for, how long are we doing it for, and you're saying no, it's fine, it's okay to switch things off and let joints sort of take different loads, etc. But it's all about actually we don't want to leave it there for too long, because that's not normal. In the same way that we don't want to be stood upright for that long. We're not guards at the Queen's House. That's not normal. We need to be. It's all about relevant to context and function in what we do.
Absolutely. I should have seen you earlier, because I tell you, I injured my piriformis deep in the glute. I was doing wrestling takedown lunges, and I was supersetting with deadlifts. Right? Injured my piriformis. I'm pretty sure. And I was thinking, oh no, I have to take it easy. I was doing jiu-jitsu at the time. I was training, and I was 50% effort, because the hips are half of it. And I was thinking, what, I need to recover. I brought one of these special cushions that's slightly inclined, orthopedic cushion, and it had a hole in the back for your spine, and I didn't recover fast enough. I think if I'd spoken to you before, I wouldn't have been so rigid, and maybe I would have healed quicker.
And I think that's often the biggest thing. And I think, we're also varied in terms of our approaches. And I think that's one of the biggest thing is that I think a lot of people will sort of tend to be like, oh no, you've been doing this wrong, you've been doing that wrong, well actually no, we all do move a little bit different, and yes, there's certain things that will cause irritations and things, but actually ultimately the most important thing is that can we get people back to doing what they want, what they love, can we get them back to doing that safely, and can we make sure that if we do the right things, they're not going to come back with the same problem and that actually, if I can get you back to, yes, squatting, jumping, running, whatever it is, and knowing that actually I've done all the best things that I can in terms of learning what's out there, evidence-based practice-wise, but also in terms of functional goals and, getting you to do what you want to be doing based on what you need rather than where I want you to be for my own ego or whatever it might be. So, so definitely often it's kind of, the best thing is, I was looking at it, so, as long as you got back to where you want to be, then I'm happy. Yeah.
That's good, man. Yeah. This is very, very, it's a different answer to what I was expecting.
Oh, okay.
When I was going to talk to you today, I was expecting, you to do certain chicken maneuvers, for the.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But actually, I really get this. It's a good message that you've given us today.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, all those sorts of things in terms of those deep neck exercises and all that. Those are things that I will often use in clinic several times a week with different patients, but based on what they specifically need.
Yeah.
I'm not a big advocate for the whole one exercise fixes all and kind of do this to never have back pain ever. But it's what? How do you know what the cause of this person's back pain is? And I think, but naturally, we do live in a society where we all want the quick, easy fixes. And I'm sure if I didn't work in this field, I would be on Instagram, I would be on Google and YouTube and looking for back exercise so I can squat perfectly and etc. And be like, okay, one exercise, and it would be if Amazon could send us a quick fix for everything, we'd all be buying it as well. Exactly. So I totally understand that too. Yeah.
I mean, you've been working for years in the field. Yeah. What are some outstanding examples of certain case studies that you've worked on? Some people that you're most proud of, or in general, what's the most satisfying part of being a physiotherapist?
I think it's definitely seeing people get back to what they do and what they love, and just being you know what, I'm happy, and I'm doing all the things. And I think fortunately, I've worked in different fields. I've got to do different rotations in different areas, and I'd say always the best thing for me is being able to get people better and get people doing what they love and what they want to be doing now. I've worked in hospital settings, I've worked in oncology, I've worked in hematology, I've worked in orthopedics and all these different settings in ward environments, and often it'll be the ones where I am playing a certain role that's I don't get that ultimate end goal in terms of I've got you back to where you need to be. For me personally, I always struggled in the sense that I never enjoyed working in a field where it's if I do something, I know that I get you to a certain point, then I have to pass you on to the community physios, or the outpatients physio will see you after that, or
you're just part of
it's kind of or it's it's a case of we're treating you, but we know that actually you've got a neurological condition where things are just going to get worse and worse and worse ultimately, or you've got a bone cancer and something that from a physio point of view, yes, we can do loads, but for my own, I'd say definitely for my own ego, which is a bit of a I don't know if it's a weakness. I know, but I think for me,
your satisfaction.
My satisfaction. I think that's a nicer way to put it. I always felt I want to be able to say, what, we did this, we got you there, and look, you're doing it now, and brilliant, our job's done. Next patient, who's my next project? Can we get you back there? So. That's always been the really exciting factor. And when I wasn't in that environment, I really struggled. I was I'd be questioning is this what I should be doing? And so definitely those were the cases that sort of stood out the most. So I've kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent then. No. I'll probably say one that definitely always stands out is a young girl that I saw in outpatients a few years back, and she'd actually been driving, I think she was on the M1 or something, and she got involved in a head-on collision in terms of the car in front of her stopped. She went straight into the back of it, had a really bad leg fracture. She was a single mom studying nursing. and had two young boys. And first time I saw her, I sort of walked in, sort of like hobbled in with two crutches. Had been wearing this boots and had a cast around it for several months, couldn't move it and things. And then afterwards was kind of like, okay, we get on and sort of like, this is several months from having all the metal work removed, and we're okay, so let's have a look at this. She's the only patient where I sort of like I touched their legs and they slapped me, and I've never seen this before. But she was really, really in a case like so a condition we call CRPS, so complex regional pain syndrome, where essentially things of like the joint or the limb or the area of the body remains in this really acute, flared up, painful state. So it's almost like kind of like, you break your arm now and 2 years down the line, you're in that same amount of pain.
Wow. Is it like when some people chop off, like have an amputation even, and they still feel that like phantom pain? Like
It's kind of probably like, I'll put it in that same branch of really complex pain conditions where things just aren't responding the way it should be. So we did a lot of work with her in terms of just to try and desensitize this area, and it was kind of like, you've just got one leg that's super swollen, purple in color, yellowy green bits, different areas, and things just don't look right. So and it's literally the early stages were just using a fan, just blowing a fan of cold air against it, and then getting like warm air to blow up against it. Then eventually we started using just like really light tissue paper touch. And it's all about just different. So we went from that to then getting her to dip her foot into cold water, then hot water, and then changing it from there to then getting her to just move her toes a little bit more and scrunching paper and a little bit of like different textures on the floor, sprinkling salt and giving it a rub around it, and just a lot of things in terms of giving it like input and sensation. Once that sort of calms down, we're doing lots of work to sort of then we introduce a little bit of massage and sort of soft tissue work to try and release things, and then progressively we built up sort of balance stuff, strengthening stuff, weight bearing stuff. And then we sort of got to a point and she was doing really, really well, gave her a bit of an exercise, and she was really, really engaging well, really, really happy. And then didn't see her for a few months, and then maybe 2 years later, towards the end of my my time in the NHS, I was helping out on one ward, and I just had somebody screaming behind me like, "Hello, Mr. Physio Man," and I was like, looking around, and was like, oh, and there she was, like in her full nurse's outfit, working on a ward.
Wow.
And she was like, oh no, since then I never had another physio appointment since that last time I saw you. I just cracked on with the exercises. And I finished my course last year, and now and it was just like, oh wow, brilliant, So that's like, a big win, because the first time I saw her, she was kind of like, walked in, didn't look, you could see that she's not herself, like when you're just overrun, you can imagine like the situation when you've got young kids like like we do, and walking in, hair's a bit of a mess, clothes are dirty, you've got all the milk stains, you've got everything, and you're just like, you can see this person is not themselves there, everything's taken over. And just getting them back and being able to be like, oh, actually, we did that. Like those, those are the big wins. Those are the things I feel like, that was definitely worthwhile. Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, you clearly want to help people.
Yeah,
and that's a noble thing. It's like, I wouldn't say that's ego at all.
Yeah,
it's good. It's good. I mean, are there any crazy examples from your work that you've like any kind of anecdotal? Crazy
I mean, like you just get yourself in weird situations. I think, like, I always look back because I was talking about this with some guys the other day, and I saw something like in terms of like funny stories, and I was like, I think it's more like just my naivety at times has kind of got me into situations where I'm just like, oh, actually that didn't work out very well. So I could remember like one of my first like few months working as a physio straight out of uni, and we'd gone to like walk this lady up to do like a quick stare assessment, and she'd done quite well, and we're like, okay, we're probably going to get you back home and you'll be okay. And she was like, oh, I just want to walk a little bit further down the corridor, I haven't seen this part of the hospital. And I was like, okay, you know what, let's go for it. So she's there with a Zimmer, have a little walk around, and it's just, and then she just sort of turned around and she was like, oh no, like, I'm gonna fall. I can't do it. I'm too tired. I'm too weak.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what do you mean you're gonna fall? Like, so she was just like, no, I'm going. So it was not a case of just, she's going. And luckily I was quite close to the wall.
Yeah.
So I just kind of grabbed there. And then next thing I was kind of in a wall squat position.
Oh, wow.
And she was sat on me. So I was now her chair. And we're just like stuck there for what to me felt like was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It felt like the longest wall squat in the history of wall squats. And this assistant that I was with, we were kind of like, there's nothing we can do. We're just kind of stuck here and just like, it's either let her get on the floor and then, we're going to have to scoop her back up afterwards, or just, just perch here. I was just like, this is probably like, if health and safety saw me now, this is definitely not what we're trained to do, but we're here now.
Things happen.
So after a while, she was like, okay, no, I'm okay. Then she got up and we had to stroll back to the ward, but it was like, my quads are on fire. Like, I'm never doing this again. So little situations like that. And then I remember a few years back working in football, and was sort of in a football game, just sort of like kicked off, and the ball sort of got passed to the back, and one lad got the ball, and he sort of like, as he went to pass it, somebody came and just shoulder barged him square on in the chest, and he literally just kind of flew back about a yard and just landed flat out on the floor. Play just continued and everybody ran off, and I was just like, isn't anybody gonna do anything about it? So automatically, like, ref's not even looking, so I just grab my bag and I just floor it straight away. I get there and he's just like staring in the air, eyes aren't blinking, not the end straight away. It's kind of squeaky bum time. You're thinking, this is not good. So I literally, like, I get him in the position, I get my hands around him, and I'm like, heart's racing a million miles an hour, and I'm like, you all right, mate? And he's just like, nothing. I'm like, are you all right, mate? And he's just still like, nothing.
He's knocked out.
And I'm thinking, oh gosh. And I was like, mate, can you hear me? And he's like, oh yeah, I can. And I was like,
okay.
Okay, that's a good sign. Like,
maybe he thought it was a preferred
But and then next thing is like, and I was like, so, what's up, mate? Like, are you in any pain? Can you feel anything? He's like, oh no, I'm just winded. And I was like, and I was like, well, get up then. And he was just like, jumped up, and I was like, oh, okay. And everybody had kind of sort of ran around to gather around. I just kind of felt a bit silly. I was like, no problem here, guys. Like, never mind me.
Oh, God,
so it was just a bit of like, that's like, okay, it was in the player's best interest, but referee was just like, next time to my whistle, mate. And I was like, okay, lesson learned.
These things, they stay with you.
Definitely, just like a head down kind of moment. But it was so it's always those little things where you kind of like a little bit of naivety plays into play. But
that's a good one. Actually, you kind of reminded me. I did actually perform a little manipulation myself once. I went to Pakistan. I visited a few years ago, and my eldest son, he was holding onto my hand, and I was like, I was taking him to the bathroom. He was like about 3 years old at the time, and he wasn't listening. He was having a tantrum, and he pulled it, and he pulled so much that he threw himself on the ground, and I felt his wrist click a little bit. But he cried a little bit. His mum picked him up. Everything seemed okay, but it was evening time. We went indoors, and his arm was staying down, and then mum got worried, so she lay him down in bed. He had a Kindle. We would let him have the Kindle in bed, but instead of holding it like this, he was holding it like this, and he couldn't communicate what was wrong. We said, what's wrong? Okay, we're taking him to the hospital tomorrow. We're in Pakistan, foreign country. I don't want to do that. So I get the Wi-Fi on, I check on my phone, and I say, okay, let's see what the problem is. And I'm sure you will have come across something like this. It's called a nursemaid elbow. So it's like the radial bone like dislocated effectively, and kids get it quite often. I'm relieved to know. I thought, oh God, what have I done? I better fix this. So I said, look, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when I was training at the time, it's like, oh, you got to put joints out of their position. So I can put a joint into position. So I did this little maneuver. So I held the elbow above the elbow, and I turned his thumb down and hyperpronated or whatever his thumb down, and I felt a click very quickly, and he just like winced a bit. I thought, I don't know if I've done it, so I just left him in bed. I said, go to bed, son. and then he picks up his Kindle with both hands.
Yeah,
and then
like,
he's fine.
Yeah,
I was like, oh wow,
Okay,
that's my full experience.
I mean, like those things are like quite common. I'd always say, like, definitely recommend take him to A&E.
Yeah, I was in the wrong place. I needed to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I would always like be those, especially when they're our own kids. We always want to try and do what's best for them and try and protect them. But yeah, I guess that sometimes the best thing is probably say, let's get a medical professional to have a look at it to be on the safe side.
I would have hit.
Definitely,
but not there.
So I think it's so that's probably like down the route that but definitely I think just because of there's still the potential risk for sort of nerve related injuries and that sort of thing. I do have I have spoken to other colleagues who have mentioned that they've had players dislocate their shoulder and things, and they've just like popped it back in, and it's definitely the guys that I've worked with in American football and in rugby. They'll often say, like, oh no, it pops out every now and again. I just give it a quick shift fizz and it's back in, and I'm just there like, let's go to A&E, mate.
Well, I mean, I was expecting to see a physiotherapist would be like upright and things like that, but you're kind of like practicing what you preach. You're very like mobile and like it's good. It's better to be more fluid, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's it's
reminds me of Bruce Lee.
Important.
I could get into that.
No, I mean, like I think if anybody's sort of like most people who know me will probably say like I'm what we call like a very low toned person, and a lot of my colleagues used to say like, if Tony was any more relaxed, he'd be on the floor. And this, that's just, I'm very much like that. And I do believe that, I do see a lot of athletes and people who move in or come in and like, there's so much stuff that's been made around sort of functional movement and specialist movement analysis and all these things. And I think there's a place for everything, and there's the right context for everything, and often actually some things we overuse and some things we overcomplicate, but also there's some things that are really key in terms of actually when you look at injury prevention and pain management and strength and conditioning, and when we look at depending on the individual and what level and performance we're looking for, if there is something that we are looking from an assessment point of view and see actually that puts you at higher risk of injury for so and so and so, then we definitely want to address that. But also there's a big part in terms of actually just appreciating that people move very, very differently, and we've all got very, very different postures and movement patterns. And you look at people like Usain Bolt, and if you'd said 20 years ago, the world record is going to be worn by somebody who's going to move in this particular pattern, they're going to be upright at this stage, they're going to push at this stage, and their stride length is going to be in this pattern with this, it's going to appear like this level of intensity or whatever. They'll be like, what, are you crazy? But at the same extent,
Linford Christie.
Exactly. You look at that, and then you look at like guys like Michael Johnson, and you're like, this guy was like, sprinting at like, virtually like in an extended position, but he was absolutely smashing it at ridiculous intensity. So it's like, people move very, very differently, and that's part of our advantages in terms of some things. And it's just actually, there's no such thing as a bad posture, but in many cases, when we do have to address posture, it's maybe because it is playing a part in terms of that pain that we're having. And it's maybe more often than not that actually we're not doing other things enough.
Well, Anthony, I think we're talking about body and mind, and you've really opened my mind up to physiotherapy being very useful. And there's an old yoga adage that says your age isn't determined by the number of years, but is the flexibility of your spine. And I think talking to you today, I've learned a lot, and I definitely see the values of physiotherapy as an option and as a area to look into more than just like looking up on the internet for personal training or something. So it's a whole different field, and I appreciate that. can you tell us if people can reach you or find anything about you on social medias? Are you on any social
Yeah,
medias?
definitely. Yeah. So I run a few different practices and clinics. So we do different things up and down the country. Big one is so you can get hold of us on social media. We're available on we are on Instagram, Facebook, and it's just typing in Mazza Physiotherapy. So MAZZA Physiotherapy.
I'll put the links in the description below, definitely.
Absolutely.
Check out my Instagram as well. Yeah, I drop fun facts on every one of my videos, and also my Discord. You're welcome to join too, where people we come together and we try to do self-development physically and mentally together. Nice. So thank you so much, Anthony.
Cheers, mate.
For joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
Really education.
Cheers, mate. Cheers,
thank
mate.
you.
Thanks so much, mate. Thank you.
This is Shaz Kraz, and I'm your coach. No, damn it, sorry. This is Shaz Kraz, and I'm your coach. Shaz Kraz, what am I doing? I'm here in my private gym and studio. Today I'm going to be talking about physiotherapy. I was going to say physiotherapy. Right, so, oh man, I did this fine the first time. Welcome, I'm your coach, Shaz Kraz. Back again, bringing you. Oh my god! Oh my god! Shall we include these as outtakes?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm your personal trainer and content creator. I said it in wrong order. All right. Welcome. This. This all is the first bit. That's the first bit, isn't it? Okay.
Nice.
All right.
So you're gonna get me going now, and then I won't be able to start.
It's nice and relaxed now.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Some outstanding examples include working for Notts County Football Club and helping rehabilitate sports injuries for Team GB Jiu-Jitsu. I have Anthony
Matsumura.
Yeah. Get these notes up.
That's it.
No, you know what I'm going to do, Anthony.
No, it's good.
I'll take the good, yeah, but I'm just going to stop it.
Yeah, it's fine.
We've really gone crazy. Before you go, don't forget to share the video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And also, while you're at it, drop a like. Drop a like. Anthony, can you...